everyone, this is Ekta and we are Read a Kitab, and I'm extremely excited to be here today as we are going to talk to Ravi Wazir, who is the author of the Startup Guide to Setting Up a Restaurant, and we are going to talk more about this and the book. Let me add my fellow people today and then we are good to go. So let me add. So hi everyone, I'm just adding people. Hi Abhishek, hi Anisha, hi everyone. Hi Neeraj, how are you?
Hi, hi Ekta, how are you?
I'm good. Hi Seema. Hi, see I can see a lot of people joining in. So thank you for joining in. I am just adding my fellow people also. Just give me a moment.
In the meanwhile, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we are going to have a lovely conversation today. And it was an unusual book because this is something which I've read for the very first time, Ekta. So I'm so very excited to talk to the author.
In fact, I'm also extremely excited because hi Anurag.
Hi,
Hi.
Anurag.
I'm also extremely excited to be talking about this book today because it's been it's not very usual that you get to read these kind of narratives, and oh my god, I think this is we are going to talk a lot to the author. And just to tell you that he is a consultant, he's also advised a lot of firms, he's advised people on their entrepreneur journey, and also kind of helped a lot of restaurants. So if people, you are in Bombay, Izumi, wherein we always kind of hang out, the Olive Bar and Kitchen, wherein you always see people frequenting, all these celebrities frequenting. So Ravi has a very important aspect in setting these up. So I'm going to talk to him today, and Neeraj and Anurag are with me. So we are going to have a very interesting conversation. He's also a mentor, a guide, and he's helped many organizations, many restaurants set up. And he's a very fantastic person to speak to with. So thank you for joining us. While we are talking to Ravi, we would be extremely glad if you want to ask some questions, and we would take them during the talk. So yeah, so all set. Anurag and Neeraj, should I just add Ravi? I think he's
Yes,
already there.
yes.
So
Looking
we are
forward to
going to
that.
talk something which is beyond the menu, and and Neeraj has, okay. Let me first add Ravi, and then we go forward. So yeah, so I've sent him an invite, and let's see. Anurag, I think I'm sitting better today in a better setup. Like always,
Yeah.
I always get this thing from him that you're not sitting properly. Okay, Ravi, you will have to turn off your. You will have to turn around your camera.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
okay.
just doing that.
Yeah.
You will
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
will have to do a forward.
Yeah. Switch it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Ravi.
Hey,
How are
hi.
you?
Hi, hi everyone. Hi Ekta. Hi Anurag. Hi Neeraj.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So glad to be having you here. And just see, Neeraj is holding two books. One of them is mine.
Okay, okay, okay.
So before we start, actually, I wanted to tell that Ekta and I read this together, and then she forgot the
Okay,
book with me. So I now have two copies.
okay.
So such a pleasure to have you today, Ravi, and I hope I'm audible and all of us are audible to you.
Absolutely, you're all audible, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Equally excited to be speaking with you all.
Amazing. So let me just quickly introduce, Anurag. Anurag is with me today. So yeah, hi Anurag. Okay, I think Anurag is setting up something. Insta glitches.
Hi,
Uh,
Ravi.
Hi
okay.
Anurag.
Yeah.
And I have with me Neeraj.
Hi, Ravi. Good. So happy to have you.
Hi Neeraj. Likewise, delighted to be here.
So today we are going to talk about this very interesting book. And when we got, when Jaico told us that we really wanted you all to have a conversation with Ravi, and the book is extremely interesting. We were just thinking, is it a fiction book, and what is it about? And then we got to know the title, and then we saw the blurb, and we were like, oh wow, bring it on, because we really wanted to read something which is absolutely something different from what we have read. And as readers here, also comes a lot of thought process that goes inside when we are picking up our and choosing our books. But I must tell you all that if you are planning to begin a business, be it anything, though we are especially talking about food and restaurants here, but be it anything, this book is kind of, you can treat it as your guideline, and as an answer sheet to all the questions that you have. Let me put it like that. So on that note, on that note, let's not go beyond the menu, but I think Anurag has a question to begin
Yes.
with Ravi.
Thanks, Ravi. I'm coming
Sure.
from a business background, like I've gone through management. And when I read this book, it was
Absolutely.
like kind of a Bible for all the people who want to start their restaurants because it talks from start to end, how it should flow, right from the vision board, how should you create it. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Going with the book Beyond the Menu, I think the important point we also want to like to know is how much you think is menu contributing to the success of business, because you have lived in Pahalgam and up north. You were grown up in Bandra, going through various
Yeah.
cuisines. Then you moved to South,
Yeah.
right? And then you have exposed to those cuisines. So how much menu is important for the success of a restaurant? Then
No,
we'll talk
the
about
menu.
beyond the menu.
No. Definitely, to start with, the menu is super important. The chefs are the backbone of the industry, and good food is certainly something which many visitors to restaurants go for. But as you know, one is sometimes people go for the ambience, people go for good service if it's fast, clean, hygienic. But from an entrepreneur's viewpoint, someone who wants to get into the business, oftentimes they are under the impression that if we get ourselves a good chef and we understand business, we can set up a restaurant. And sometimes you can, as long as you know that there is much more to a restaurant than just the food part of it. Though the food, as I said in the beginning, is super critical. So beyond the menu, there's a lot more when you're setting up a restaurant, and that's what I wanted to highlight, because many people have that misconception that once I have a good recipe, a family recipe, or something which people love, I can set up a good restaurant. But no, that's a very dangerous thinking to allow. If you want to set up one, so that's why it's beyond the menu.
Thanks,
And
Ravi.
also, an add-on thing to what Anurag was asking, Ravi, I was just wondering that, when we talk about South India or North India or any part of the country, since we are such a diverse country and, food and cuisine changes with every kilometer, I would say, not kilometer, but every 10 kilometers, I must say.
Yeah.
So, do you think, I was very curious to know from you, coming from, the kind of the know-it-all person of the restaurant thing, coming in from you that, like in South India, when somebody goes ahead and pitches a dish which is North Indian or something that is continental or something, opens a restaurant like that. So in that case, how much menu plays an important role, or is it okay for people? It has become very common for people to diverse the cuisines that were originally existing and move beyond it.
Yeah, Ekta. So, we are very fortunate, as you rightly said, in India to have such a diverse range of cuisines across the country. And even within each state, as you said, if we take a simple thing like sambar, the sambar in Mumbai would be different from the sambar in Bangalore, would be different from the sambar in some part of Tamil Nadu or Andhra for that matter. And each dish can be expressed differently. And as far as international cuisine goes, also there are a lot of international cuisines, not just the earlier popular ones like Italian or Chinese that we used to like earlier, but now we've expanded into such a diverse range of international cuisines, from Korean to Japanese to Burmese to all sorts of things. And we're not limiting ourselves, in any case, to one particular cuisine, whether it's within India or from outside of India. So I think that all cuisines are ready to be eaten, and there's a market for all those cuisines. We just have to take cognizance of the fact that how often, from a business point of view, are people going to eat a certain kind of cuisine, and who your target audience is. And also thanks for the compliment. But I feel a little afraid when somebody says know it all, because I never have that approach. Though I've been in this industry for a long time, and I've been blessed to have worked with many brands, many very good brands, and also learned from some failures of some brands, including some of my own businesses. I'd say that there's no one in any sector who knows it all. And I feel that I would die as a professional the day I think of myself as some sort of a know it all. So I'm very afraid of that kind of a thing. But yeah, let's continue.
Wow.
Yeah, so actually we do have kind of a sequence, but we usually never stick to the script. So off the top of my head, so off the top of my head, I just wanted to ask, because you have had such rich experience in this one particular industry. My question is kind of obvious: why this book and why now?
Sure. So actually, the book is something which began as I have had a habit as a professional since early days to capture my learnings. Sometimes when I'm sitting in front of somebody in very early days in my career, I would jot down notes. But as time went by, I used to memorize some of those things. And after the meeting was over, whatever important things I learned, I would write down. And I continued that practice, whether it was running other people's businesses or running my own businesses, making a note that I saw something working, 99 times out of 100, I would say, okay, this looks like a best practice. And when I began capturing those best practices, I began sharing some of those with my colleagues from the industry or even from other industries. And they said, this is good, and maybe you should speak about this or share your knowledge and write about this. So I began speaking and writing quite early, maybe more than 25 years ago. First for professional publications in my industry publications, and then for mainstream publications like Hindustan Times, DNA Money when it was alive, Forbes India. And the book actually, this is not the first avatar of the book. This is actually the fourth avatar of the book. The first avatar of this topic on restaurant startup I wrote in 2005. It took me 4 years to write that book because I felt I must share this knowledge. If my fellow professionals and seniors think it's worth it, and the kind of feedback that I got from the publishers, the feedback that I got in terms of actually purchases from people, and the feedback that I got from in terms of calls and letters from various parts of the country, and in my second and third avatar, 2013, 2015, from other parts of the world as well, it encouraged me to continue writing. And I'd say post pandemic, if I was to summarize the simple premise of this book, I'd say the restaurant business is one of the riskiest businesses in the world. And at the same time, one of the most attractive businesses in the world. One out of every 10 people I meet, approximately, regardless of what their background is, tell me, I'd like to start a cafe someday. I'd like to start a cloud kitchen. And a restaurant is basically, you're familiar. It seems like it sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
And the dangerous part, the good part about that thought is I always encourage entrepreneurship. I never like to quell the spirit of entrepreneurship, whether it comes from a person who is an employee in a senior leader position in some organization, or an entrepreneur in another business, or a student. There are all sorts of people who want to start off restaurants in any avatar, like I said, a QSR or a cloud kitchen or whatever. And the risk is so high. And if people don't understand what it entails, then they're going to experience burnout, either a tremendous amount of emotional pain or a tremendous amount of financial pain, or both of them most likely. And how you can navigate this business despite knowing that you're going to experience this pain, that's the reason for this book. If I can, in the bargain, save people a lot of heartburn, a couple of lakhs, if not a couple of crores, that is what it takes to set up a restaurant. And in less than $500, if they can learn that, then I would feel I've done something back. I've given something back.
That is very interesting. And this answer from Ravi, I was all the time thinking about two things. One is when Ravi was talking about how methodical he was, and he jotted down everything. I was just thinking Anurag must be so happy, because he's always been telling both
Okay.
me and Neeraj, Ravi, that both of us are highly, we come only at the last minute. We take all the leaves last minute, leaving everybody flundered that what are you up to? What are you going to do? And he's extremely methodical. And then I knew after speaking to you today that that's the reason why till date we haven't written a book, both of us. So
Okay. So that means no, that's a good one. But that means Anurag is kind of getting ready to write one.
Oh,
oh, oh,
definitely.
Yes, that's
keep
possible.
on
That's
telling
possible.
Anurag that you can definitely do this.
Sure, sure.
And the second thing which I was also thinking was when you were talking about this was that um, everybody, all of us are always thinking about opening, a cafe thing
Sure.
which you just talked about.
Yeah,
So, to all the readers out there who are listening to us and who will be watching this later on, and maybe we should make this small reel and I'll share this with all of you because this is an important question that I'm going to ask Ravi. So, Ravi,
sure.
all of us kind of think that, oh, why don't we have such a place wherein we have books all around? We've got all the day to read, the sunshine is peeping in, and we have a beautiful cafe serving some glamorous coffee coming in. But when I read this book, the chances looked very grim to me. And reading all the nuances, I was thinking, Ekta, do you really want to do that? So is your book kind of making me die of hope? Is what my question
Yeah.
is. And to
No,
all
no,
the readers.
absolutely. I completely appreciate where you're coming from. In fact, my cousin once told me, when I told him something similar along these lines, he said, Ravi, you're supposed to be a consultant in this business. Are you trying to get me afraid of getting into this business? Aren't you supposed to be selling me the idea? And I said, no, actually, I have no interest in selling you the idea of setting up a restaurant because that is something which comes from within any kind of restaurant, cafe, whatever it is. But what I can do is warn you that look, this is what it entails, and you might discover that you're not the right person for it, or your persona, or the kind of commitment that you require for it, or what it takes out of you, is not really what you thought. And if I can deter you from going into this business, I would be very happy because I would rather save, out of 100 people, every 100 people who read this book, even if 99 people literally say that, you know what, it's really not meant for me, or I think it's much more than what I thought it was, it would have served, the book would have served its purpose. And for that one person also who is serious, they will find a roadmap of, okay, now I can figure out this is what it entails. Even if I approach a professional to help me, they won't be able to cheat me. At least it'll put them on a level playing field. So the purpose of this book is whatever you digest from it, whether it leads you to not do a business, I would still be happy. If it leads you to do a business, but in an informed manner, I would still be happy. So my goal is not to sell because that's the most dangerous thing to do, particularly in any business or this kind of business, even more so because of the high risk that it has. So the goal is, like I said, if it deters you, I'm very happy. I would have saved you a lot of pain, hopefully, Ekta, a lot of heartache and heartburn, and hopefully, some money as well.
So, a lot of people writing us in the comments, like Abhishek is writing, I want to open a book cafe in Goa. And Deval is writing, oh, dreams of a lifelong, fantasy. So, all of you heard it right from the person. And now you know what you have to do. Otherwise, the best idea that I would want to suggest you is read the book. And I'm not promoting the book, just promoting the book, though I am promoting the book, but I am not really promoting the book. I am helping you, and along with Ravi, I'm helping you to find out what it would need to set up the right restaurant, or to find out the right place. And we'll talk more about it. There are some excellent anecdotes also that Ravi had shared, and some brilliant pieces of advice which my I'm still laughing, I'm still reeling out of those, so we'll be talking more about that. But
And
I
throughout
think
the
I'll go to
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and throughout
yeah.
the book, you'll find lots of quotations there from different authors. And I was really enjoying when I was reading through it and how it aligns with the whole theme where all these authors and the entrepreneurs have come and they've talked about it, and then how you have actually used it to provide the information or the knowledge to readers. So, Ravi, I really like the structure, as Ekta was saying. I like the way when it's structured, and I really enjoyed when I was reading it. During my MBA days, I have read a separate subject on financial accounting. I have read different subject on marketing, reading Philip Kotler. And when I was reading this book, I was really enjoying because all those things were coming together, starting with the vision board,
Yes,
then going running a business, and then where have you talked about different types of entrepreneurs saying resource focused and then skill focused, and then you have even given a business cases, which I was really enjoying reading through the cash flow, how it works. But there
sure.
was one important aspect we have talked about is about the humbleness and the humility which is required for success of a restaurant, right?
Yes.
Can you talk more about the importance of humility in this capitalistic world where everyone is
Sure.
trying to make money? And you talked about a
Sure.
very, I will say, important ingredient for successful business.
Sure. Sure. I'll link my answer to Ekta's previous point of quite a few of your audience have mentioned about a book cafe. So I'm going to give you a real example of a book cafe and link it to the humility point that you made. So in Mumbai, I came across through a friend of mine, someone who has set up a book cafe, and the cafe is called Bombay to Barcelona. Uh, and you can look it up online. It's a very exciting space, and it's set up by someone who is now a good friend, Amin Sheikh.
Yes.
Amin Sheikh grew up to be a street kid. I mean, he actually grew up in an orphanage and came up the hard way. And when my friend, our common friend actually, an author called Dilip D'Souza, introduced us, he said that uh, Amin wants to set up a restaurant. Can you help him? And I'm thinking, like, look, even if a business is well capitalized, someone who's well funded, it's very important. How is this gentleman going to do it when he's, bootstrapping in this manner? And he said, and Amin has written his own biography, and very, very interesting of how he, was raped on the streets and how he survived, a true survivor in multiple ways. Started off a transportation business, and subsequently, when he reached out to me and we had a conversation, we spoke about his endeavors, and I was preempting that I will tell him, I mean, it takes really hard, really a beating, and I'm coming across a man who has taken a beating on the streets from his childhood. What will I tell him about taking a beating? But I told him a couple of things, and he seemed to be equipped, and I believed that he could because of his previous history. And he set up Bombay to Barcelona. He experienced tremendous difficulties while setting it up, including having to shut down the first location and then has set up a second location. Beautiful food because the orphanage where he grew up was developed by Jesuit priests from Spain. So cuisine from there and cuisine from India. And the reason I agreed to help him is not just because our friend Dilip suggested that, but because he told me the purpose of that cafe. And he said, Ravi, the cafe is going to be manned by street kids like
Yes.
me who grew up in an orphanage. And I am not going to be the owner of this. We are all going to, like a cooperative, have a share of this. And my goal, that is Amin's goal, was that the street kids could look into the eyes of people like me, their guests, and feel that they have earned their space in society. And the humility with which, despite his success, tremendous success, he continues remaining humble. And I find that even in the larger world, in the corporate world of restauranting, or in the business world of restauranting, which have many hundreds of restaurants, whether it's in India or internationally, I've always found that the promoters and the entrepreneurs, despite their success in the market, despite financial success or their success as leaders leading teams, they are humble. It is some of them who are not extremely successful or who are very newly successful, can't handle the success. Those are the ones who are arrogant. But as Anthony Bourdain once said, don't remember the exact words, but something to the effect that if there's any business which will, beat you into getting humility, it is the restaurant business. So yeah,
Yes, I've
Wow.
marked
that's
that.
oh, okay, okay, you kept that open. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
So
Yeah.
would you
Yeah.
mind reading that, Anurag, for us?
Sure. So the quote goes like, if anything is good for pounding humility into you permanently, is the restaurant business.
Wow. And
It's-
what a brilliant story that you talked about, Ravi. And just to add to this, we from Read a Kitab in Bombay, we have done a lot of meetups in Bombay to Barcelona. We purposely, book that space and we go there because we thoroughly enjoy what you just rightly talked about, the humility and the nature of hard work that they put together and the kind of the treatment that they give you, also because of the background that how they have set up this restaurant. So all those who are not aware, this restaurant is in Andheri, and why don't you guys give a huge shout out and also go to Bombay to Barcelona, eat some incredible food. They have some amazing beverages as well. And also
Yeah.
there's a very cute small corner wherein one of the members of the restaurant also designed some very interesting clothes. So go ahead and you can also take a pic from there. It would be really nice. What I also wanted to add to this anecdote, maybe I'm a little digressing, but just wanted to add, when I went there, and generally these days it has become a norm to have a specific amount of service charge that restaurants put, and the service, not sorry to say, but is extremely poor. And with this restaurant, they don't charge you a service tax, and you yourself feel like giving it, going and doing something for them, because they are incredibly humble. So
Yeah.
kudos to Bombay to Barcelona, and thank you, Ravi, for talking about them on this platform, because I'm sure a lot many people are going to listen to it and go there and feel the space. So yeah, I just want to
Absolutely.
add that bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're very deserving, and they've really come up the hard way, literally from the street. Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, when we're talking about, like Anurag mentioned about the capitalistic world, and I was reading the byline or the subtitle of your book, which is launching and managing a profitable restaurant. And I kind of, at
Sure.
least for me, I did not find the word profit being used a lot in the book. So I just wanted to ask you whether it's like deliberately done, consciously done, or it just organically happened that way. Because I can all connect this to the anecdote that you shared with about Bombay to Barcelona. Also, it's all very large in the book as well. So I just wanted to ask. I was curious about
Yeah.
this.
No, I've not sort of consciously kept the word profit out of the book. If you notice, there are sections on restaurant as an investment, and a separate section on the financial aspect of restaurants where profit is definitely mentioned, because we are in business at the end of the day, not just to fuel our passion, but our passion cannot be fueled without money, which is the oxygen of the business. And beyond a point, however wealthy a person might be, you cannot or should not go on funding. There are many creatures in the market today who are so well funded in their losses that they continue, and some of them claim that they will become unicorns. Some of them claim that profitability is just around the corner. And the reason why it's important to mention profitable is that you're not just doing it as a vanity exercise. You're not setting up a restaurant only because you can, and because it's your passion, but you want to make it profitable. And all the elements in the book, Neeraj, whether it is the sections, finance, or the capital related sections within that, I have mentioned it and I've spoken about it, or even the other elements, like whether it's the quality of food, whether it's the quality of service, whether it's the ambience, all of these come together to give you that profit. So it doesn't only have to be where the numbers are, that's where the profit comes from. Where the people are, how they serve you, all of that, the entire experience that you feel is what leads to that profit.
Also, adding to what Neeraj was talking about, and how you talked about profitability in a certain manner, and also talked about humility, I was also wondering that there are a lot of quotes from different authors and everything. One particular thing kind of I was just kind of thinking, it kept me thinking, and I stopped for a bit. Wherein there is a quotation which is mentioned by Ayn Rand, and in all the readers fraternity across the globe, it is a very controversial topic because people either love her or hate her for what she's taught. And I was just thinking that Ravi has talked about Ayn Rand and quoted her, and her philosophy generally talks about being individualistic and being to put it in a general parlance, be very selfish. And on the other hand, we're talking about humility. We are talking about serving people, and we are also talking about, and you have also talked about that how humility and everything comes into picture. So I was just wondering that how could two diametrically opposite philosophies rather and can come together and still hold true in developing a powerful business as well as serving people. So I
Sure.
wanted to ask you that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think it's very important that every individual in any business, and you all are part of teams in the business world yourselves, although in different sectors. But you would know that in a team, that there are individuals and there are teams, there are sub teams. So I think that in my experience in leadership, regardless of what sector you're in, I think you need to have a duality in your thinking. There are times when you need to be individualistic in terms of managing your own time, managing your prioritization, managing your focus, all of that. And only when you achieve a certain level of that ability can you lead a team. So you are constantly waltzing between or dancing between yourself. Sometimes you need to burn the midnight oil, for example, you all would be doing it, where you're just by yourself. You need to put your thoughts down in silence without anyone. And sometimes you need to think as a collective, as a team. So both dimensions are very, very critical in any business, not just the restaurant business. Though that's not the reason why I quoted Ayn Rand. It was just in the context of what the specific quote that I mentioned. But since you asked, that's the answer.
Wow, and I think that gives a lot, a lot of information, because like you talked about duality and how important it is, even in we being working with different organizations, or talking to different people, meeting different people, and how all of it kind of solves the jigsaw puzzle. And I was wondering all through that, I was, oh my God, I love Ayn Rand, but I don't want to follow her philosophy. So, so yeah.
No, I
So
think that
yes.
it's very important that if particularly for people like yourselves and your audiences, the fact that you and your audiences have read Ayn Rand, regardless of how many of you agree or disagree with the philosophy, that means, as people from the world of literature, I would say, there's one part of you which may be commerce and business, because you're all business leaders, but the other part of you is also the literature part. And that means that allows you the art in you, allows you to have an open mind to other perspectives. And the moment you have an open mind to other perspectives, you allow yourself to receive other viewpoints, and you allow yourself to become that fiduciary, objective person who can say, okay, I take one element from this, and I take the best of both worlds. I don't necessarily want to be, binary, that it's either this or that. No, it could be, multiple shades of gray. Not that I'm alluding to anything else, but yeah, in terms of decision making, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Let's not call it 50. That's fine. Till the time I'm not calling
yeah,
it 50, it's all fine.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
On a very different note, in fact, like we were discussing and we were having this discussion around the book, it's almost like a step by step guide, and you have spilled almost everything that is there. So I was kind of wondering, like, aren't the competitors worried that you are, like, giving away all the industry secrets?
I've had some of my seniors in the first edition of my book in 2005 tell me that, like, Ravi, what are you doing? And there were quite a few of my seniors who said that, and I said, look, I'm just sharing. my knowledge, and they said, you are in the business yourself. Do you realize that you'll be taking away from your own work? Because if people have that, then have that information, why do they need you? In fact, I had many years ago, I met two monks from the Hare Rama, the Hare Krishna mission from Bangalore. They came to Mumbai to study their restaurant Govinda in Juhu, in Mumbai. And they met with me, and I presented them a copy of my book. And at the end of it, had a consultation with them. I answered their questions. They said, Ravi, you've given us the answers and you've given us the whole book. Now what is left? And I said to them that, do you seriously believe that decades of my experience, which are captured well in this book, are all of my experience? That's one. And what I offer in my consulting is tailor making it live to your specific requirements, to your specific geography, to your specific target audience. I work with you on strategy. I work with you on problem solving. These are two big buckets of work that any leader, any entrepreneur, any business leader in any field need to work on. So I become a sort of a mentor and a guide to help you through that. The final decision is yours as entrepreneurs, but I'll warn you of the pros and cons before you take that decision, so it'll save you some amount of pain. And despite what I say, if you still choose a decision that I suggest you don't take, I will embrace that decision. I will not tell you, see, I told you so, because that's not in the spirit of entrepreneurship. Having been an entrepreneur myself, I know what it takes. You're putting in your savings, or you're putting in your family wealth, or whatever it is, or you're taking loans from outside sometimes and setting up your business. And I think, people who have that approach of, I told you so, it's not in the spirit of true collaboration. Yeah, I mean, that's my thought on this.
So it's like, Ravi, it's kind of a Gita Sar. So it actually summarizes all the things what you need for a restaurant business, but you still need a
Yes.
guru.
Yeah, anyone. I'm not, I mean, sure. I mean, I can't be a guru to everyone. I can't be the coach to everyone.
Hmm.
But there are many good professionals, across the country, who can be really helpful. You have to figure out who is the right person for you, who can you afford, who understands you, who will be, and what kind of guide. So you would have, say, a culinary consultant, you would have a kitchen layout consultant, you may have a bar consultant, you may have a procurement consultant, you may have an equipment, person who specializes in equipment, you may have a labor law consultant, a tax consultant. I'm a business consultant who helps coordinate with all these people, and I don't insist that you have it only people only through me. I say you get your own people, whoever you trust, and we all pull in the skill sets that are required, whether they are consultants or whether they are employees. We all pull in that and see what's in the objective interest of the business. Because I've come across some people, unfortunately, who I've heard of from some clients, who've complained that so and so professional force fitted a certain equipment which they didn't really require, or force fitted a fellow consultant who they didn't really require. So sometimes you need to figure out the agenda of the person. It's not necessary that you need to even hire a consultant, but somewhere or the other there would be elements of skills, whether permanently on board through as an employee or temporarily as a guide or as a consultant of these different kinds, during your journey to help you develop. Because as you know, even the most elite sports people in the world have coaches, and the most elite CEOs or CXOs in the world have coaches. Though in India, sometimes, now things are changing, in India, sometimes people in the business world and the corporate world, leaders, feel that how can I get a coach? I can't be seen looking as weak, someone who doesn't have the knowledge. It's not about that. It's, Sachin Tendulkar's coach can't play cricket better than Sachin Tendulkar, but he can observe
Yeah.
certain nuances and understand certain technicalities and helps Sachin understand himself better. That is why a Sachin has a coach. That is why the top athletes and the top CEOs have coaches. You know, so that's the approach. That is a healthy approach, I feel.
Thank you.
Very interesting, very interesting. And actually, also looking at things from a very different parlance and, standing as a second eye or a third eye and, watching it absolutely makes a lot of difference. And so importantly, that you also talked about how, things kind of come into shape when we have a mentor, a coach. And I think we all need at different stages. But on a, so for all the people who've joined us, late, just wanted to tell you that we are talking to Ravi Wazir, and he is he's written this amazing book, which is a guide to set up your own restaurant. And even if you are not going to get into this business, this book will really make a lot of sense to you, because it gives you not just how to set up a restaurant business, but also to look at things very critically, technically, and how the real world functions. So I think you should definitely pick up this book and read this. In the next segment, I also want to ask you, Ravi, that in the book you have mentioned about change makers, and you talked about that it is important, or essential to have external change makers, so that there is a lot of diversity that comes in, objectivity comes into the play. But we've seen a lot of businesses flourish, and so there are two parts to this question. I'll go one by one. So one is that we see a lot of businesses flourish because they are legendary businesses and coming up from generations, and they, even if they have a small place, but they're making immense profits, and they're going on generation to generation. So handing the baton to the next generation, and bringing an internal change maker, or change agent for that matter. Whereas there are certain businesses wherein people, the sons or the daughters or the offsprings, they just go out and they don't want to continue the family business, or they want to opt something else. And whereas some people feel that I would do an MBA, or I would get another degree, a higher degree, so that I would be taken seriously in my business. Maybe my parents would appreciate what I bring into the zone, and talk about it. So how important all of these elements, as internal and external change agents or change makers, are important, what effect they have on setting up
Sure,
a business or carrying it further?
sure. So I'd say that firstly, change maker in a business, whether an internal change maker from the family or an external professional that is got from the outside, um, change should not be forced on any business. Only if the business requires it should change be attempted. So, for example, if someone tells me that, what, let's improve on this unorganized sector, they're called the Dabbawalas of Mumbai. And I'll say, what are you talking about? They set the standards, they set the benchmark. Let's not mess with something which is working. So, first thing is, let's not try and change something just for the sake of change. Uh, Second thing that you said is that sometimes a restaurant or any business is handed down over the generations and it keeps working. So, what is important to realize in this, if that business has worked over 1 decade, 2 decades, 5 decades, or more, any part of the world, any sector, uh, it is not possible that that business has not evolved to stay relevant to the new target audience. I can tell my kids, you know what, I grew up eating at this particular place. You must go there. They might humor me for some time, but they will continue only if that place resonates with them. Something in the vibe of that place, something in the food, something in the quality, price, something has to resonate with them and the next generation to continue for so many decades. So while the nuances of that change may not be very obvious, you will say, 50 years ago when I used to come, this food used to be the same. Sure, but that doesn't mean the look and feel, or the kind of service, or the technology behind, or the people's attitude, or the dressing, or many changes little by little. Sometimes we observe a change which is very radical because it's in your face, but we don't observe little adjustments which a business makes over decades. So that's the first part, where you said that from generation to generation it's successful. But that success is also because change has been incorporated, which is not very obvious and visible, not in your face, but it has happened to stay relevant. You're also very right in your observation about the next generation sometimes not being interested and wanting to do something else, or sometimes people from another background wanting to get into this business or another business because they want to prove their point. And I'm fortunate that I've worked with many parents and their next generation. So I would say more than 40% of my clients in the last 7 years have been in their 20s and 30s. My youngest entrepreneur just turned 24 recently, and she wants to set up a restaurant in Mumbai. So I've been working with her for a while, uh, and oftentimes what happens is that there's a generation gap. So I will find a father and a son who will have completely different perspectives on a particular decision to be made, and I'll tell them, just 1 second, I'm locking the door. Have your argument in front of me, but when we step outside, I will be the arbitrator because you've allowed me. Thank you for that. But when we step outside, both of you will please speak in one voice to the team that is outside. Because otherwise, either A, they'll get confused, or B, they will use that uh, in certain situations and misuse that, oh, I'm strong with the father, I'm strong with the son, and that leads to the focus of the business being diverted, and that leads to a bad work culture. And then work culture, as you know, is tremendously important. So like Drucker would say, Anurag, work culture eats culture eats strategy for breakfast. I know, Ekta,
Exactly.
you're into strategy, but that's the truth. I would say for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it would eat strategy. Yeah.
And what valuable piece of advice as well, I must say, that for all the businesses or for all the team effort or the teamwork that we put forward, I know there are a lot of confrontations, a lot of discussions, a lot of arguments, a lot of disagreements that happen, but how important it is to put a step forward outside with being one and being united. I think that's such a valuable discussion in a very small conversation that we had. And you kind of talked about a lot of things, and I think the book also kind of talks a lot of things which you can kind of definitely pick up. Also, I mean, I think we also had a question on cloud kitchen. If anybody is not asking, I'll go ahead and ask.
Go ahead.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so yeah, so we were talking and we were discussing about the book, Ravi, and then we thought that post pandemic it has happened that we've seen that there has been a surge in cloud kitchens and restaurants being opened up, and people are becoming extremely kind of do it all kind of a thing. And you have a lot of restaurants coming in everywhere. There's a every day you can see something popping up, be it a cloud kitchen or be it a whole set of restaurant, maybe not fine dining but small places, small eating joints, cafes, etc. So is there any specific reason that you, as since the market well, and I'm not sure how much these businesses will flourish or they have flourished, though I wish them all the best, but have seen in the last 2-3 years a lot of businesses falling apart. And it started on a very high note with putting in a lot of investments, which you could see when you go and you see the ambience and you taste the food and the kind of things that are there, which is aesthetically very beautiful. And that is how the entire world is functioning these days. So anything that is aesthetically beautiful is kind of considered the best. So in fact, all those reels that we see on Instagram wherein people sorry to say, but lack substance, but they have so much of aesthetics in it, and they are like kind of getting million views. So I'm sorry, I couldn't stop saying that. So something like that. But so what is your view on setting up a cloud kitchen, and and any of those joints that people, they just kind of, with the surge that's happening around?
Sure. So I'll answer both of those things. Firstly, the cloud kitchen part of it. The tremendous surge of growth in cloud kitchens across the country has happened pre-pandemic and even more amplified during the pandemic. But thereafter, it became very important to it became very important to sorry, I lost my train of thought. Uh, I just got
So you were
distracted. Sorry.
talking about, cloud kitchens coming in and getting amplified post pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened is even after the pandemic, when there was a surge, the entire industry was wondering: is this delivery model going to remain only during the pandemic, or will it
Yeah.
go down? And slowly, what we discovered is that not only did delivery and cloud kitchens increase in permanence, at least so far, that's how it looks, but also experiential restaurants, which means that you go to a restaurant like the kind you spoke about, where the ambience is very important, and you experience that ambience for yourself, which no cloud kitchen or delivered food can give you. So these two things, let me expand on these two things. So cloud kitchens have been supported hugely by delivery people. Now, those delivery people could be employees of a restaurant, which was initially 100% of the time before aggregators came into the picture. Whatever delivery was done by the restaurant delivery guys. When the aggregators came in, they told the restaurateurs that, look, you've got a lot of problems in terms of setting up your delivery system. All these delivery guys, you have to invest a lot of time and money in training them. You have to invest in motorcycles or cycles. You are unsure whether they will go to their village and whether they will come back. So it's a people related and a capex related, capital expenditure related problem. We will solve that for you. So initially, restaurateurs were very happy that they're solving this first. Plus, we've got a delivery angle. We'll pay them a percentage. And over time, that percentage kept on increasing because the investors and aggregators wanted more and more. And there wasn't enough, there isn't enough. If as a restaurator, I'm selling something to you for 100 rupees, I'm making a profit, which is not as much as you, the aggregator, thinks. But you thought I was making so much of a profit that there would be enough for you, the aggregator, and for me, the restaurator. But that's not the case. Aggregators didn't believe it. They thought, no, the restaurator is making a lot of money. So what did they do? We will set up our own cloud kitchens. We will set up our own stuff and we will run the business. Do it. What happened? They learned. They learned just how hard a restaurator works and for just how little money a restaurator works. So it's not the notion that they thought. Otherwise, they would be running restaurants by now. That's the cloud kitchen part. The part on the glamorous part, there's an unusual irony in that. I completely get where you're coming from, where some restaurants are all fluff and it has to be Instagrammable dishes, Instagrammable ambience and look and feel, and you get a million views. But that may or may not translate into actual bills, money coming in. And you're so right in highlighting that point. But the truth is that it is an age of Instagram. The truth is that we look at Instagram and other such online spaces for cues where we should eat and should dine, and we often follow crowds. We often follow recommendations of people who mean something to us, whether it's our friends, our family, our work associates. They all are influencers, and if we see all of them heading towards a space which looks good, which is Instagrammable, but may or may not have substance to it, we tend to flock there. But having said that, there's one unusual thing about ambience I must tell you to finally finish this answer, Ekta, is that there's a Michelin star chef. He used to be a Michelin star chef called Marco Pierre White. Uh, and he publicly acknowledged that when he was losing his Michelin stars, it kind of made him feel low and depressed. And eventually now he's given up restauranting and he's gone into sustainable farming. That's where he feels it is. But during his tenure and his experience, he said something which shocked the culinary world. He said that I feel that ambience is the number one thing, and then food and service come later. And he's a chef. How can he be saying that? But I have experienced that, and I strongly agree with that throughout my work, because these three food, service, ambience are the pillars. And the logic behind this, why could ambience be the number one thing? Why not food? Because you and I might go for the food. So there are places where we will go only for the food. We don't care whether the people are arrogant in service, whether it's dirty, they throw the food at us, whether the ambience is really terrible, but that place is really good, we go there. So there is that kind of place also. But for the large part, when we go to celebrate to celebrate something with family or with work people, we take someone from outside of the country, we bring them, or outside the city, we bring them there. When we take someone out on a date, when we go to various occasions in which we go to restaurants, for the most part, ambience matters. Why? Because if I'm a restaurateur, I'm serving the three of you, and I have good food, but I have a terrible ambience, a terrible service, which would you forgive me?
No.
You may. But if you're in a group if you're going only for the food, now if I have good ambience, which means I serve you well, I serve you with humility, I'm serving you with that attitude of, this is my humble offering to you. Even if I make a mistake in my food, you will forgive me. If I make a mistake in my service, you will forgive me. But if I'm arrogant and have that attitude and ambience, I'm the coolest one, then you will wait to pull me down as a restaurant.
Absolutely.
You will not tolerate. You will go on social media and scream. But if I serve you with that humility, then you will forgive me for my mistakes, and I can survive as a restaurateur for longer. So that was the context in which Marco Pierre White said this, and I have experienced this for myself, and I strongly agree. So yeah,
That is so amazing, actually.
Exactly.
sure.
So one question I have, Ravi, here is like you've talked about lots of things in much detail around finance, right? Now,
Yeah.
when I started reading the book, I always had that conception like there's a good margin in the restaurant business. And as a reader, definitely all have a kind of a dream to open a cafe. But when I looked at it like 20 to 30% as a margin, suddenly it was like why people are still investing so much into business, be it an angel investor or like why people are opening restaurant after restaurant. Any specific reason you see in the market? Like, are they not aware of the margins, or still there is a margin in the business?
Sure. So first thing is, Anurag, we must recognize that imagine a certain brand, okay? And imagine I have 10 different outlets of that brand in 10 different locations, even in the same city, let alone in other cities. In other cities, it will be even more dynamic in terms of margins.
Yeah.
So all these 10 locations will not have exact same percentage. They will have different percentages of margins. Some may be losing money, some may be very profitable, some may be medium profitable, though it's the same brand in the same city even. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
the first point I want to make in response to this. Second thing is that why do people still go after this if they know? First thing is most people don't know. The private equity players, for example, if you look at about 10 years ago, if you knew little bit also about the food and beverage business, they would throw money at you. Come on, I'm investing, thinking that the margins are what you might have thought of, Anurag.
Yeah.
Okay. However, they put down real money to learn the lesson that, boss, this is the money that you're going to make. They said, oh my God. And along the journey, what happens when an investor, private equity fund or a fund puts in money, it's not their money. They are money managers for some investors. So they are accountable for to someone else. So supposing, say, for example, Anurag, you are a private equity head, okay, and I am a restaurateur. Now, you have told me, Ravi, this 25% doesn't look good. Can we do this? And now I stand to gain a fixed monthly income plus a percentage, plus I'm still 51% owner. I'm still have controlling stake in the business. You will sell that idea to your investor that we'll make a lot of money. And you and I have convinced each other of this story. And now we have gone and told that story to the investor. But after a couple of financial quarters, the investor realizes that this is not really happening. But similarly, like you and I, there are 100 pairs of such food and beverage operators with investors 10 years ago, 7 years ago. And suddenly the competition has become so much. And I come back to you and tell you, Anurag, look, it was really like that. I wasn't lying. But now there are 100 partners like us. And there are so many restaurants, there's so much competition. So we can't make that margin that we thought of. Now the investor gets upset with you and points a gun to your head and says, you told me this kind of return. You point a gun to my head and you tell me, Ravi, you had a corporate office. You have 6 top business leaders here. Fire them. I say, but boss, I have to run the place. No, you can't give me profit. You at least reduce your costs. You can't give me sales. You at least reduce your costs. So this goes into a spiral of understanding that, okay, now people will not just throw money on the food and beverage business. You have your proof of concept. Show me that it's working. Then judiciously, as an investor, I will put in money. So now people are getting aware of it, at least in the corporate investment circles or the formalized investors. But some of the wealthy family offices, wealthy corporate business leaders who may want to spend money, somebody is earning in crores of rupees per annum as a business leader in the corporate world. She may not know this. So it is important to inform you and people like you at whatever level that, don't get unreal ideas. You have to have the patience to put in your time and money. And that is why that funny thing of, it takes a big fortune to earn a small one. It's a joke, but actually it's a serious joke. So you have to. It's my job to tell you that. When you're getting into this, no false, and rosy pictures. But there are restaurants that do make a lot of money. Those are far and few. But that can't be made the benchmark to tell you now you get into this business. And I'll give you an anecdotal example of, see, this one brand I worked with, or these 2 outlets I worked with, or these people are making so much. No. They are 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million, perhaps. So I won't give you that impression that you can also do it. You can, but there's no assurance. You be ready for that risk.
Yeah, and you also talked about many restaurants which were like family business who have also shut down because of
Yeah,
the change they have not done or they have not done it efficiently.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you have to be nimble in your thought. We were speaking about change earlier, and now, and I'm sure you've experienced that in the corporate world as well. Sometimes we are so fixed in our beliefs that we hold on to them, and if someone has a similar belief system to us, we immediately align ourselves with those people. If someone has a very different belief system than us, we become suspicious, cautious. We may even suddenly go silent. We may try to convince them of our belief system, or we may go to war at a very high level of
Yeah.
conflict. It's between nations, it's between different faiths, it's between departments in the corporate world. And handling that change and listening and being open to that is very, very hard. So I have, I have been working with corporate leaders, and not just in the food and beverage industry, but in other sectors as well, in terms of change, leading change. Because what happens is, it's something like, you might have read about the ad card model. You might have read about Philip Kotler. That this is how you can lead change, and these are the 5 steps or 8 steps or whatever. So when I do my leadership workshop, I have not done change in that manner. I've done leading change as an intrapreneur, because unfortunately, many people who work in as leaders have not had the experience of being entrepreneurs. So I have my own model of trying to share with them. Look, this is what a very traditional employee will come with a mindset of towards risk. This is how an employee will think. This is how an entrepreneur will think. Now, in reality, a leader in the corporate world may be very entrepreneurial, even though they don't have a family background or they've never been entrepreneurs. So there is no black and white. Here also there are shades of
Yep.
gray, where I've come across many business leaders who are so adaptive, so flexible. And I salute those people because they've not had that experience of entrepreneurship. So I start off with the difference between an entrepreneurial mindset and a very classical black and white kind of thing, to exaggerate the situation. Not that in real life it is like that. So I exaggerate the situation of a pure entrepreneur will be like this towards risk. A pure employee will be like this towards risk. Purposely showing extreme opposites, not that it's there in reality, and then show how can we come to a midpoint, because you're dealing with change in your departments. So you may be leading a particular business vertical or a certain department in the business world, and the buck stops with you. So you are an entrepreneur actually in that sense of that department or that vertical. So that leading change attitude has to percolate to all leaders, whether they are entrepreneurs, whether they are in the restaurant business or in other businesses, or in the corporate world as well. That is a very important element of leadership: the risk taking, the change, the attitude, intrapreneurial attitude. These kind of things are very important, and dealing with conflict, perhaps in reference to Ekta, what you said about, let's say, different generations within a family, having a conflict about what the decision should be or how the problem should be solved. So conflict management also I don't coach in the traditional manner which you can find on Google. I use martial arts, which is something I grew up on, and show conflict and how it can be resolved in the real world. Hopefully, in the real world, nobody's going to physically punch you, but verbally they pull you down, or they try to, sort of take away from what your goals are. How do you stay balanced in that situation? So these are important things for all entrepreneurs and leaders to learn, regardless of the sector.
That's great, and I was
Amazing.
able to link it with that. So we normally see like lots of when we do M&A, we see lots of people who have started the company and they have been acquired. The senior leadership always have the entrepreneurial skills, you will say, or the traits,
Yes.
which we don't see who have come out of MBA because they have grown from zero and then they have grown the
Yes.
company.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, now in MBA, it's advised that before you do your MBA, you get some work experience for a little while. Then you can relate to what you learn in classes, in theory, to the practical learnings. Because otherwise, it's too abstract for someone right after graduation or BBA to straight away do an MBA. It's too abstract. But if you have real world experience and then you apply those theories, then it works in the real world. It does work.
Absolutely.
Thank you for saying this. I will definitely share this with my students because I do coach people who are appearing for CAT and GMAT examinations. So I'm definitely, because I'm the teacher, so they're like, oh, it is your job to say these things. So I'm definitely going to share your words. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You can also tell on my behalf that you don't need to do an MBA. Though I
Very
have an
true.
MBA.
Well said. Very well said. No, honestly,
Coming
it's
from an
true.
engineer and MBA, that doesn't sound too good.
True. True.
But yeah, I never realized. Yeah, Neeraj, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just have like one
Yes.
small thing I
Please
was
go
very
ahead.
curious about. So we have spoken a lot about finances, markets, and all of those things, and the various steps. I was also kind of curious to know from you, what are some of, like, from the policy angle, from the government, what are some of the things that you envision or that you think there is a dearth of? I'm sure there must be many things, but then what are some of the things that you think that probably not just in our country but across the world? Like what are the expectations from the state?
I think a couple of things. I mean, many things, but a couple of things. So in India, at least, I would say one of the things while our industry or the food and beverage industry or specifically the restaurant industry is a very heavily regulated thing by the government, it need not be so heavily regulated. We do bring in a lot of money. We do bring in a lot of employment, and therefore it has been our plea, through the various restaurant associations like the National Restaurant Association of India or the Hotel and Restaurant Federation. All of them have been lobbying to request the government to sort of give us a one window solution for licensing. Because otherwise, in each state, if I have multiple restaurants, I have to figure out in this state what are my taxes, what are my, how do I apply for licenses? The fees are different, there's no uniformity. So I can't, it's very difficult for restaurateurs to manage that. GST is another thing that we've been requesting that allow us to offset the GST, which you're not allowing us to offset right now. And one of the things which I'm happy with the regulation and I hope gets strong is food safety. If you look at this incident recently of the temple, I'm not saying it from a religious viewpoint. I'm saying it from as a food professional. When whether it is a governing body of a temple happens to be the example in this case, whether it's a governing body that is a political body or whether it is a governing body that is a religious body, for me it doesn't matter. For me it is that as a food professional, one of the earliest things I learned was I must not feed you something that I will not eat myself or I will not feed my family. And that is a basic spirit. If I don't, however tempted I might be on the commercial front, if I don't recognize that, and if I do this, this is still a dharam brushed kind of a thing where we're talking about, religious assault. But I'm referring to something which goes even deeper for the money. When food poisoning happens, people die on certain occasions and stuff like that. And I feel that the highest punishment should be given to these people. No, no escape from that. So the law should become very strong in that. That's what I would say in terms of laws.
Thank you for that answer.
Very, very important, and also never realized we've crossed almost 65-70 minutes talking to Ravi, and I feel we can go on and on. But Ravi, some last questions, a very quick one, which is your favorite restaurant in Bombay? We would like to know that.
No, I don't have any favorites. See, I'll tell you why. It's not that I will give you that classic answer that they are all my babies. No, I won't say that. I'll tell you why. So I might want to go to a very basic restaurant or a street joint when I'm in a certain mood with a certain person who I'm going out when I'm alone. So when I'm alone in one situation, I might want to eat certain something which I remember of my childhood, or I might feel nostalgic, or I might feel indulgent. I might feel I want to present a good part of my city or some other city to a guest. All my moods are different. I'm the same person, but all my moods are different. So my go-to place in each of these moods will be different. My go-to dish when I'm calling for a home delivery, for that matter, from different restaurants would be different. Sometimes I might be in an adventurous mood. I might try something from a place I've not tried, or try something different from a place that I've been going to for very long.
Yeah.
When I'm in a very, when I want to just, I want something sweet, then I want something sweet, and I can't compromise with my sweet. So I have to, go for that. And sometimes it has to be only a gulab jamun and rabdi may do the trick for me. Sometimes it has to be a tres leches, or it has to be, a Dutch truffle, which I melt and want all gooey. So it depends on my mood. For bread pudding, it depends on my mood. Even within desserts, that I will order each of these couple of desserts from different places because I've tried them at all the places.
I'm
So
already
it depends
feeling
on my mood.
hungry.
So,
I just wanted to go and have it.
Okay, so there is this one question which I have from a reader who's saying, please share your favorite books of all time. But I am not going to ask you that question, but on the same lines, which is also a part of, our segment. And I know it's very difficult to answer, one favorite book. But if you're reading something currently, Ravi, and if you would want to recommend it to the reading community.
Not reading something specific, but I found on the restaurant business, generally, if you want to say, one of my favorites has been McDonald's Behind the Arches, because that's a book which tells about the story of McDonald's. And for someone who wants to set up a restaurant, that's very inspiring. Even if you want to sell food that is very different from McDonald's, we cannot ignore the fact that McDonald's is the largest in terms of number of outlets, in terms of sales, and in terms of brand-wise known as one of the biggest restaurant chains, the biggest restaurant chain in the world. That's one. The other book that I would say, which is not to do with this sector, but generally, that I have found good for any business leader, is a book called Culture Code. Culture Code is written by a French person. I'm trying to remember the name of the person. Um, I can't remember the name of the person for just now, but it's a Frenchman, because there's another book also called Culture Code. So you'll have to be careful of which one you select.
Yeah.
If you see the name of French person, you'll figure it. And this is about uh, insights into consumer habits, because his job is to look into, let's say, brands like Nestle, or let's say Chevrolet, car company, or a food company, or any company, or Levi for that matter, and figure out what does the consumer think, what impression do they have of the brand, and uh, how can they fine tune the alignment of the brand to the market. So I remember one example which he gives of Nestle going to Japan
Yeah.
with coffee and failing, despite all the focus group discussions telling them, yeah, it's going to do really well. And then he discovered that Japan, being a tea drinking country primarily back in the day, they were not very open to another beverage competing with that directly. So then he guided Nestle to create a dessert with a coffee flavor, and therefore not threatening the reigning champion of tea in the category of beverage, but subtly coming in through the category of dessert, just getting a flavor of it and liking it, and then slowly introducing coffee. So very insightful, because a lot of business decisions that we take as business leaders, again, regardless of which sector you're in, depend on the consumer insights that we can gather from our sector. So again, this is something which is not specific only to restaurants or food and beverage or hospitality. This is for all sectors. The more you study your sector in terms of consumer habits and preferences, the more you can align your business or your offering to that sector. So that I find very important, and perhaps your readers might like it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
these recommendations. And we also see Team Jaico is sending sending regards to our, they've written, we send regards to our cherished author and Team Reader Kitab. So thank you, Jaico. Thank you so much for, these valuable words and, giving us this, moment to talk to these amazing people out there writing some incredible books. And I think I'm really, I'm really in a zone wherein I've gathered so much of information, and I think this is absolutely a fantastic way of talking to the author and also understanding various dynamics. If you have not picked up the book yet, you can definitely get your copy, and we will be posting it, the link, and you can just grab a copy, or you can go to any store and get your copy. But Ravi, this was such a wonderful conversation, and oh my God, we never realized, we've like almost 75, 80 minutes into the conversation, and I think we have so many things to talk to. So maybe, we'll have another segment where we are inviting you, and, we along with some good food, and, you can give us some tips as
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
Uh,
That would be fantastic. But I'd like to thank Jaico as well because, as you know, as people from the Readers Club and Book Club, as the publisher makes all the difference. And Jaico has really been up there in terms of. I couldn't have hoped for a better partner in terms of my publisher. The kind of support, the kind of direction, the kind of transparency, with Jaico has really been amazing, and so I'm really grateful to them as well. For supporting me and helping me through this.
wow.
And thank you all. Ekta, Anurag, Neeraj, thank you all for this wonderful conversation. Really appreciate being here and your questions, and look forward to catching up offline again.
Thank
Yes,
you. Thank you, Ravi.
absolutely. And thank you so much. A huge shout out to your book, and also Jaico. Thank you. Thank you, everyone who joined us today, and those who are going to check on this live video again. Do check out the book, and also a lot of tips and anecdotes that Ravi has talked about, though we missed so much to talk to him more. And we will definitely, schedule something, and we'll definitely talk more about it. But yes,
Sure.
till now, have a great time. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you once again for joining us. We'll be putting this on YouTube, so maybe that will be up in another 2-3 days, and we'll be putting that in our stories, and you can go out and check the video there. So yeah, with that said, happy reading, and if you're still dreaming of setting up your own cafe or a restaurant, you know
Do
who
read this
the person
book.
is.
Do
Yeah,
read this book.
you got to read this book, and you also know now who's the person you got to catch hold of. And if you're not able to find him, we are the people, we will guide you to reach him. So yeah, with that said, have a great night, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you,
Thank you
Thank
Ravi.
you.
so
Thank
much.
Thank
you
you.
once
Thank
again.
Thank you
you.
for your
Thank
time.
you, Ravi, for this amazing book. Thank you.
Amazing
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.